Beals here with no nonsense, cause you can't make sense if you don't make sense. A pod with freestyle discussion, poetry and social deconstruction.
Hi, this is your host Beals. Today with me, as always, is
Big to the B-U-R-N.
G. Today we have a topic, and I will have poem. Let us begin now. Oh my, look outside. It's changed, you know. It's full of all that white substance, powder. I hope this jacket will suffice, because there is tons and tons of ice. As we see today, which is November the 11th, 2014, there is a tremendous amount of cold weather that has just seeped into the rural area and urban area of the surroundings of the No Nonsense podcast.
It's alarming. It's cold, Beals.
Absolutely. So, Big Burn, this is where my question leads me. Is today a random fluctuation in the standard weather of Nebraska? Or would you say that this is a definitive climate change and that this incidence of today's cold weather coming out of seemingly nowhere is indicative of the fact that global warming is falsified and is made up by the liberal media as fear-mongering to try to get you to believe that we are harming the planet?
Actually, there, Beals, what I think, and my weathermen intellectuals tend to agree with me, is that we actually don't live in Nebraska. We live in Antarctica, and that's why it's so cold all the time.
So you're telling me that the maps have been wrong this whole time?
Yeah, people's geography has been off-based, and I don't really know how they fucked it up so badly, but apparently geographers and everybody that is in the process of making these maps need to rethink and go back to square one.
So the problem really lies in not with climate or the habits of humans creating what we can call greenhouse gases, but you're saying, in fact, from the map makers themselves.
Yeah, I would tend to argue that everybody in the world lives in Antarctica, and that we just need to make sure that we go to the proper locations for any distant George Motors vehicles, and then you can purchase them and put them on your ice sheets on top of the snow caps.
Well, let me get this straight here, and we need to get to the QT report. Do we have enough auto typical sales, or are we kind of more along the lines of automatic sales that have declined the amount of maps, or are those who don't have maps in Iraq or thus and such?
I think maps are automatically coming in through the barrier of all Iraq-based military maps on Fort Woodhouse grounds. And so I don't know how they're entering through these drone-based military zones, but you know, eventually, Mark Zuckerberg and his business cards need to rectify this problem, and, you know, he's getting paid the big bucks, Bill, and that's what he's paid to do.
And that is one thing that we know, and that's a fact coming in straight from the panel. Well, we're going to have to take a little bit of a news break, so here is our daily news musing.
Any rustic house that comes in contact with diametric tribes spewing forth diatribes or even kilter with any other heavy rain clouds in the system. So coming back to the original question at large, there is no discernible level of cancerous cream that can alleviate Mr. Razjak's current pain level. Asinine children are running around like heads with their chickens cut off with no end in sight. How many concurrent turquoise bats can be released into the solar system at any given entry point? One must achieve top-level status in quantum physics to understand said conundrum. Scaling in the ancient Great Wall of China without bitcoins in reserve can result in a dangerous amount of autoimmune disease being released into Venus's atmosphere without John D. Rockefeller's consent.
So, Big Burn, let me ask you about these maps and business cards. Is the problem being that these are insufficient maps because there are strong barriers to entry?
Yeah, I would say they're very strong barriers to entry, and perhaps John Newman, the esteemed intellectual, who is now deceased, he did argue that business cards and maps should coalesce into one outstanding shivering product. And then they could put those inside any Walmart next to the Xbox, not the Xbox 360 or the new Xbox, but
the sales.
Yeah, the sales will plummet and flummox.
Right.
And we don't want that. We want steady increase in rise of sales. And I don't know. The weather patterns, I must say, Bills, I have to comment, all this climate change, and my theory about being in Antarctica, but some intellectuals are trying to debunk my theory by saying that you could put any road signs inside any grass leaf on this side of the hemisphere, and I don't know, I come back to the summer solstice point.
Well, we do also know that because we live in Antarctica, there are no grass or trees or any plant life that does grow around here because obviously it cannot with these conditions. So everything that we are seeing is a falsified perception which is brought on by the liberal media.
Yeah, the liberal media is really trying to push their agenda, and it's kind of making me sick. And, I kind of wonder if the multiverse theory is true, and if the liberal media is pushing this grotesque narrative in their universe. And if it is so, then there is no hope for the possibility of life after death in terms of transporting yourself into the consciousness of your other alternate being in other multiverse.
Now, do you think in other multiverses there actually are Omaha Steaks and Arby's restaurants?
I think there are, and I think they actually are experiencing climate change in the state of Nebraska. They're not in Antarctica because they got their axles all rotated out of a cuff when they went through the wormhole in the Tesseract by the fifth dimensional beings.
So these fifth-dimensional beings that live in Nebraska inside of an Arby's or Omaha Steaks in the multi-universe, do they have business cards and maps?
They have business cards and maps, but they also really care about lawn care.
So should we see more of a push to have lawns inside of restaurants such as Arby's?
Yeah, I would argue that lawns, if a company, a small to medium-sized company could afford to put a lawn inside their headquarters, then they're going to be well better off, and they're going to have a lot better profits. And, if all they can afford is turf, then, it's still worth looking into.
Right, and if they can't afford turf, there's always turt. So we would like to leave you with, as always, a wonderful poem closing by Mr. Big Beals. Burn.
Sure, no problem. Man, walking around, I'm feeling a shiver. What's that cold breeze and that foul smell? Oh, that feels like winter. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but drink some hot chocolate. My face froze with yellow snow, shaving my face with Gillette. So if I'm homeless and lost my job and need a place to stay, please let me stay in your basement so I don't waste away.
Thank you, Bill. Burn. This is the No Nonsense Podcast signing off. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Hope you got some insight and a few laughs. That's all for now, folks. Yes, goodbye. Till next time, as long as we don't